Just be careful when you're trading. I'm not affiliated with any stock trading security or other firm. I have a personal account, and it's Stephanie's fault that I'm here. She made me do it. A note for people that when I post my trades, I'm not doing it for you to follow me. It's a bad thing to do. You need to know where you're going in a trade, especially for the new people I'm talking to now. The old folk, we all know this stuff. But I post my trades for you to watch and look at if you care to, but don't follow me unless it's like a paper trade. I trade somewhat different than Stephanie. The way she teaches, but her insistence on volume has turned on a bright light for me. I've been a successful trader listening to Steph. Well, what a coach. I've combined candlesticks and patterns with her levels. I do pay attention to the print, but really don't trade off them most of the time. I take my trade with my stop loss. I record it on a piece of paper I have, and then I post it in the room. And it may take me 3 to 5 minutes to get that done. So if you try to enter when I post it, you're late. You won't have a target, and you won't have an exit. You can ask any question you like, and I'll answer it. And if I don't, you know the people in this room well. They're fantastic. Everybody in here is great. And I've had a lot of questions about my J-hook pattern. The reason I developed the J-hook pattern, or not developed it, but got into it, was because I started my account with small. And Steph looks for mostly a 20-cent move. And with 500 shares, 20 cents doesn't do anything. I'm looking for, I will not enter a trade unless that particular stock has a move of at least 40 cents a day on the ATR. I look for a whole lot more than that, but that's my minimum. And I can't stay by the computer all day. So 99% of my trades are swing trades. And that's why I got into this pattern thing rather than watching just the levels and the prints. That's enough of that thing, I think. But again, if you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask me. All right, here, this is actually posted in the room. I'm not sure where it's posted, but it's in the folder someplace. This, what I'm showing you here, is from a fellow named Steve Bigelow. He didn't make this up. One of the people in his room did, and he has a pretty good room. It's not as friendly as this one. It's not as informative as this one is. And he's a great trader. But boy, he stinks as a teacher. You need to know how to trade to be in his room. And everything he has is candlesticks. If you go to Stephen Bigelow Candlesticks on YouTube, he has all kinds of information on there, from what a candlestick is until how to trade it, all different patterns, including the J-hook pattern. Now, a J-hook pattern is, people get a little confused. This second chart here will show you the J-hook pattern. It must be an uptrend. We must have, like, from this first circle to the next move where my indicator is on here, that would be one move, and then it pulls back to a J-hook, and then it follows on. Now, this move here, theoretically, should be the same distance as this move in dollars. It also will pretty close resemble the number of days it takes to get this. This is all daily charts. So if it took 21 days to get here, to get to the next level is also about 21 days. Now, I'll show you on my chart, I trade a little differently than what he teaches. But your wave 1 precedes the J-hook itself, like here. And wave 2 is the J-hook pulls back itself, and wave 3 is normally the same distance as the first wave. The breakout for this particular wave would be the top high of this particular move. I can't mark on here, but I'll show you on my charts. So if I enter here, and I'll explain this again in a little bit, but anyway, if I enter here and it moves up to this point, this is the J-hook pullback, and the breakout is at this high level. That confirms the J-hook. If you don't get the breakout, it's not confirmed. This is not a J-hook until it's confirmed. Then your breakout follows from here. That distance up is the way it's set up to be. And again, this is in the folder in the room. Also in the room are, okay, here's a move here. Ideally, we're looking for a long, powerful uptrend move prior to the J-hook. And we're also ideally looking for the breakout pattern with stochastics, and I use stochastics close 1233. Now he says 80 or more, which means your stochastics is probably going to be, and not probably, but it's going to be, if not in the oversold position, overbought position, it's going to be close to it. I'm looking for many small candles in the rounded bottom part of the J-hook. Like here. It says many, but 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 small candles. What this is indecision. How this basically works, it's explained all in here, but what it is people are buying this stock. They want it, they want it, they want it. And they get to a certain point, now they're saying, hell, I'm going to sell. I'm going to get out. No, Jason, it doesn't require volume. It's good to have, but it doesn't have to have volume. In fact, when Steve teaches all his charts, he does not have volume on his chart. He trades without volume. I still can't figure that one out, but that's how he's been trading for 30, 40 years or so. Now, I lost my train of thought. Okay, it's saying here we need where is it? When it's many small candles in the sort of rounded bottom part of the J-hook. And you're also looking for that. That's ideal with a rounded bottom part in the J-hook. I'm looking for 1 to 2 bar move from the bottom to the breakout point. I don't agree with that 1 to 2 bar move, but that would be ideal. That's the perfect J-hook. But anyway, this is what it's all about, how it works. And let me go to my charts. What you're going to see here in a minute till I transfer it over is my, let me explain these. I have a 2-minute chart with a 20 and a 4 EMA, like it's gobbledygook. But if it looked right where it was moving up some, when the 4 crossed the 8 would be a buy. And then I have a 5-minute chart. My stochastics is here is 1233, and I have volume. This one is just stochastics and volume. I don't know why I have stochastics there, but I like it. I have 2 of those charts. And over here I have my VIX and SPY and SPX, and then my watch list is over there. Let me go to the talking chart. This one screen is very slow. On the bottom here, I have a weekly chart and a 15-minute chart. And I have those things in there, whatever they're called. This is all right, a while back, quite a while back, I had a chart with my J-hook patterns. Last time I gave a presentation years ago, I had a chart with my J-hook patterns in it. And for some reason, it got old. I wasn't paying attention, whatever. I went back to most of those charts and erased all the lines for the J-hooks, which was a stupid thing to do that I found out just about a month ago when I realized what was happening here. A little more than a month ago. What I'm doing now is going back to May 22nd, or 24th it was, when, if you read the book, Stephanie's book, she said that I called out the J-hook pattern at that day. And that's the day I called it out in the book. That was my first move right here. So the stock moved. Now, here's where I'm different than Steve. I want the beginning of my J-hook pattern to begin on the 8 EMA. I have a 3 EMA, not a 4, I have a 3. I have an 8 EMA and a 20 SMA. And a 20 is critical for me anyway in a J-hook pattern. But I wait till the price crosses the 8 EMA. And that's when I begin where my J-hook pattern begins. Steve would start his somewhere down here. And I found, just for me, I find it better when I cross the 8 in a green candle, which was right there. And then it moved up to this point, that top move right there. Even though it leveled out some, it still counts. That was my top. So I took this line and I duplicated it. Okay, before I do that. Now, at that point, it pulled back. And here it took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or so, 6 lines to go. It didn't, it came back and hit the 8, but I started my second run. Here it is right here. It pulled back to the 8, and here's where I began the second run. So I took this, that and moved it up here and put it in that position. So that's how I got the extension on the J-hook. And when I called it out, I don't do this all the time, guys. Yeah, I do. I'm that good. Yeah, right. When I called it out, I gave 55.34 as the target. And it went to 55.14. which I count as a success. So it came pretty close to what I had said it was going to do. Now here, what's the height on that? 55.10. Okay, so my projection again is where I put my start point and where I put my start point and where I put my end point. I may be off by a couple dollars, a couple cents, or even more than that, but it's pretty close. Now this came up to 55.14. That makes a difference. That's what I'm going to show you today. The stock came down and messed around over here, and when it came back up to 55.10. Over here, we had a little gap, and the high of that was 55.42. These lines on the chart where I draw the line for the J-hook. This one is not showing a good deal. This thing is powerful. It's just going and going and going and not stopping. Here I was in here. I traded this to about that point. I got out maybe around here. I had the numbers on a paper, but rather than looking at them, I got out about here. I got back in when I pulled back down to the 8 and began the next run. And again, I got out somewhere around here, 4:15. Yeah, that's when I got out, 4:15. Now, 109 is the top, and look what's happening at the top. It does not want to pass 109. So I called out the other day. I said, yesterday, in fact, I gave a number of where Qualcomm was going. And that's what I was reading off. I was reading off the chart on the J-hook projection. And we can show that in Qualcomm. When we were in here yesterday, I called out this 69.38, figuring it would stop at 69.38, but it didn't. It went higher to 70, 80, 71 something. But that's the number I called out, figuring that's where it was going to stop. Again, here's my J-hook pattern. This is what happens. That was the level. It went past it, but it came back to it and failed. And then it came down on this day and stopped right on that line. Now here, this line, the beginning of that J-hook pattern, is acting as resistance here. How many days did it act as resistance? And over here again, it acts as resistance. Is this freaky? I don't know. But it's what's happening is what I want to show you on this chart. If you find a J-hook and you put the lines on it for the J-hook, you're going to have a mess on your chart. If you follow all Steph's mark on your chart all the levels, and you mark on your chart all the 612 moving averages she has. Now, she doesn't have that many, but too many for me. Now here's the beginning of a J-hook pattern where I came in on KSU and it stopped right here. And then it pulled back to that point there. This is a good pullback on the J-hook. We have the high, we drop down, comes down, and it starts, the next day it starts right on the 8. And I projected that up. But it got up to here, that's a J-hook failure. It failed here. Don't look at it anymore. Once that happens, it comes up and runs up, it turns around and comes back halfway below this candle. That's a failure. You get out. Go home. Let's look for another stock. Now that 121.24, let me reduce this down so we can see how many times those lines acted as support and resistance. Here we have support for down line. So this happens to be for the top, for the projection, which that's too far, I guess. I don't know. But then it came down again, and it used it as support again. Now we're coming up. Here's the line support right here. Or resistance, rather. So those, and again, we're using this projection here as resistance. This is what I wanted to show you all. And I can go back, and I can't go back too far like I really like to go. But the projection was to here, and then it pulled back to this point, and again it's resistance, or support rather, support. Now up here, this projection is resistance. Again, it shows it again. I have no clue how to explain this mathematically. None at all. It doesn't make any sense, but it happens. Here we have sloppy, but it is acting as resistance. And here it's acting as support. Well, that's right here. This one is acting as support. There's not enough there to go by. I just showed that one. Here's another one. It came up and hit this level. Here's my first projection, my first move that I counted as a move because this was sloppy in here. I counted that as my move across the 8. I projected it to this high point here. And then pulled back. That's my second projection. And it went real close to it. Then come down here, and that acts as resistance. In the meantime, this one acts as support. And again support. And then it fell all to hell. But this first line here come back in this direction, and now we're getting that as support resistance as an auto line. I can show on a bunch of these. Here's one with a little more time to it. This was a move I projected, but it blew right past it. That didn't care about, that's the home builders. They didn't care about that projection. They just flew on past that. And I didn't have this trade, unfortunately. But you can see how the projection of the J-hook acted as support or resistance, and is still doing it today. Again here. I have taken trades off of my J-hook level lines and made money on them just as a reverse. I have done that. Alcoa is the same way. Now, here's another thing I want to mention. I projected this to go to this level. That was a J-hook failure right there. However, it did get to that level, and you will find many, many times it will do that. I'm not saying stay in the thing that long, because to me, this would be the failure right here, and I'd be out, and I wouldn't count on that. But they will go there, and now look at how many times it's acted as resistance or support. And then this projection line, how many times it's resistance and support. Everybody follow what I'm trying to say? First Solar, I love this stock. I love this thing. Made a lot of money on this baby. This here would not be considered a J-hook pattern. I grabbed it from the bottom because it was not in an uptrend. Okay, this is not an uptrend. So from here to here, I would have given this part of it up and taken that as the uptrend. And again, that projection as acting as resistance, and this is acting as support. And I come down further from this projection here, and we're getting support and resistance again. Yeah, Steve, what's the J-hook pattern? I'm showing a bunch of them here. Let me find a nice one that's nice and clear. That's not a good one. This one is. Okay, this stock is in an uptrend. It's a small uptrend, but it is an uptrend. and that counts. And then it came down and pulled back to where I like to use the 8 EMA. I have a 3 EMA, an 8 EMA, and a 20 SMA. I mentioned before the 20 SMA is a critical thing, and I'll show you that now. But I would enter the stock here. In fact, I may have, I'm not sure if I did this or not. It's too long ago. And the move was to this point approximately. There was no pullback on this because that was it should have stopped here, but it didn't. It stopped up there where I did it. Anyway, again, it's subjective. I took this move when it pulled back to the 8 EMA. I took this move and duplicated it and moved it to where it pulled back from and moved it up there. And that's how I projected the J-hook. This one blew right past it. But here is a thing I look for all the time in a J-hook pattern. The 20 SMA. I like it to have a minimum 45-degree angle. The steeper the angle, the better it is. And we can show that on KSU. Is that a J-hook? No. There it is right there. KSC, today's. I'm in KSC. I have my uptrend, although it's wobbled in here. This would probably disqualify it from a real uptrend. But what I liked about it was the 20 SMA was moving up. I entered KSU $184.03, and I got out $193. Is that it? Where I get out? Yeah, $193 right in here. Or that candle here, probably. But that was my projection where it would go, and it stopped right there. Then it pulled back. A slight pullback, but it pulled back. And I entered again here. And I'm still in this again. I didn't enter there. I entered somewhere in here. And that scared the hell out of me, but it held it on the 8, so I'm still in it. This will make me a few more. I have three options. Can't afford any more than that. Anyway, this is a nice J-hook pattern. And that 20 SMA is important. As long as it stays on a 45-degree angle, I'll love it. That means she's going up. Yes, Steve, I do have a scanner set up on TC2000. And if you look in the folder, Stephanie says she's going to record this, and the folder is in this. Hold on a minute. I'll go back to that other page in a minute. Also, here's something interesting: the dollar. The Dow. We had a J-hook right here. We open it up some more. That was actually a J-hook. It ran from here to there, and then it pulled back to here and gave me a J-hook to there. And it acts as resistance. Crazy. It acts as resistance again, right here. Crazy. And the other beginning of that J hook is support. It acted as support. Now, can this act as resistance? I mean, act as support again? We going up? I think so. J hook works and what the explains all about it. The scan logic for it and whatever. Also, in here are codes for the J hook. That's fry pan bottom. I don't want that. How the hell do I get the fry pan bottom? There it is. Nope. Now I'm lost. There it is. J hook pattern. Also in the folder from prior, quite a while ago, is the code for TC2000. This is an extremely long code, but it's copy and pastable. And the English translation of what it all means. Also in here is the J-hook pattern for TOS, Think or Swim. So if you have either one of those two platforms, you can copy and paste the scan. Now I've added to mine. I don't just go in for the J-hook pattern. I also add volume and price. Now why did I start it there? I got it, Ricky. Can you hear me, Ricky? I got it. Okay. Yeah, but I got a mess on my screen stuff, so yeah, I'll give that a try. But anyway, that's where I entered it when it started to break out. That 20 SMA is in a perfect position. Even though it came up here and did a little idle deal, even though it came up here and it pulled back, that 20 SMA is staying at a 45-degree angle. That is a perfect trade to me. This should make 205.68 as the projection. So it came up to this level and it pulled back, but it never really came back to the 8 until here. So that should have been my entry point, which would make this 205.68 too small. However, that is not a perfect J-hook. It's not. It came in here and it pulled back and it idled and messed around and but a bunch of small trades. And the reason for that is they're undecided. Here we've made a big move. Now people are starting to take their profit, but there's also buyers available. So they're keeping the price up. Even though they're trying to bring it down, you can see the tails on the bottom. They're bringing it back up. So the buyers are still here and it's holding steady. It went up, the sellers came in and took that little bit of profit again. It hit the 8, and now we're off and running. So the sellers got out while they were in this area. That's the idea of a J-hook, although there's a little too many in here, but it's okay. This is a similar run. This probably could be considered a J-hook from here to here, and a pullback to here, and a projection to here. Now, let me try that. Let's see if that works. Ah, come on. Pretty close. Pretty close. That would be the projection right there. Although it didn't make it. That last 80% will kill you. I mean, that last 20% will kill you. But that's the way I would set up on a J-hook, just like that. Uh, Kahuna, no, my first target was the length of this run. Where did it go before it pulled back? The highest point is the end of the first run. Here it has a double top. A lot of times it does, mostly doesn't. But that's where the first run ended, where it started to pull back, the highest point. Then it pulled back, and then when it crossed the 8 again, this should have been the right entry, but I took it at here because it looked like it was going again, and it did. Oh, you can't see my cursor? There it is. You see it now? So what I did, I entered it right here, and the highest point that it went to was there. That's where I drew my line, right there. And then it starts doing its selling, buying thing right in here. And where it pulled back to the 8, that probably should have been my entry point. However, I made it down this way. What I found on there are bear J hooks, and I've seen people play them. However, what I found is they are not consistent. I can't really project exactly where I want them to go. I shouldn't say exactly. I never know exactly, but I know approximately. But you can, the reverse J hook works. You just have to be careful where it goes to. Set your resistance area. Where's your support area going to be? Kahuna, let me try this again. Let's take this point right here. Let me erase these lines and we'll do it again. Okay. Let's look at KSU. Now I'm working on a different screen, but it's projected over onto, I can see my pencil mark on there. I can see my pencil line. So this, where it crossed the 8 on this move here, where I would put my first mark. And then I would follow that up and I'd have to wait. Oh, wait a minute. Let me do that again. Okay, it crossed the 8 right here. I'd call that start. Where it crossed the 8. Now I've got to wait a few days. How high is it going? I don't know. This is not a J hook. This is the beginning of a run. So I don't have a J hook yet. I'm just watching this thing. I see where it gets to, which is that high point right there. I put a mark. I've looked at this. I'm probably looking at this chart on one of these days in here, probably. Or I may have been watching it because it was a big move. I don't know where it's going. The 250's in the way, the 300's in the way, the 100's in the way, the 150, the 50's in the way. I probably wouldn't have traded this anywhere along here, except maybe a day trade. I don't know, but I wouldn't. Now, that's the high point. And here it pulls back. It's a little past the J hook. However, this gives me a belt hold. A belt hold is a very powerful, positive signal where it's going to go long. And at this point here, I probably would have re-entered because that's where it crossed the 8. So I put my mark right there. Now, where's it going to go? And the way I find where it's going to go is I take my starting point on the first mark and move it up to the high point of where it went to the first time. Following that? Then I take this particular projection line and I'll duplicate it. And now I'll move it up to my new starting point, which is there. And that's where I would put another line that says, that's where it's going to go. Ah, dummy. And I would say that's the projection that it's going to go. However, it's a lie. It didn't get there. It came to this point here, started to roll over, and that's a fail. That crossed back over my 3, headed to my 8, and that's a failure. So that's where I'd get out. If I was in here, from this point up, this point up, I would get out somewhere in this area. Make sense? All right. Anyway, that's what I have to talk about, guys. It took a little more than I expected, but that's a good place to be. So this is a again, this is not a J-hook pattern. This is the first pattern, but this is where it went to the first time. So that's where I would project. This becomes the J-hook at this point up here. This is not the J-hook down here. Becomes a J-hook at this point where it pulls back and forms a fish hook. Figure you're fishing.